Can we talk a little bit about the logical levels model?
Sure.
Because that's something that really is, it's captured the imagination of people around the world. They
Yeah.
really like the idea, the
Yeah.
clarity it brings to how people think. And perhaps in describing it, if you can relate it into success, that would be
Well,
really
yeah, I
helpful.
think that's actually, that's one of the simplest ways even of introducing the notion of a model. So first of all, the idea is that there are, of course, levels, that not everything is on the same level. And if we look at success, for instance, you could look at success as a sort of accumulation of environmental possessions, like
Okay.
money,
Yep.
building, cars, things.
Yeah.
And for some people, that's part of that's part of the success. Maybe for some people, that's the majority of it. But if you look at others, it's not so much about what I possess; it's what I've done, or I can do. We were talking about athletes.
Yeah.
You don't measure an athlete by their success by how many cars they have. Really, that's not how you say, oh, they're a successful athlete. But by what they've been able to accomplish, what they've done,
Okay.
what you're able to do. And in this case, physically.
Yes.
And of course, for some people, it's, well, I've done this, I've done that, I've been able to accomplish this, I achieved that, I've done all of these things. Now, another level is not so much about the physical environment or about doing, but it's about, we might call it learning, what I know. I'm successful, I've gathered this information, I have this know-how, I've developed my competencies and on a certain way. I mean, if you look at philosophers, they're not going to say, well, I'm successful because of what I did or because of where I've been or what I possess, but what I know, how I've developed my knowledge, my know-how, my capabilities. And this is a very fundamental thing, by the way. I remember reading a very interesting study of even very young babies, just even a few weeks old, where what they do is they put a little mobile above them, and they have a little light beam, and as long as the baby can either get an arm or a leg in this light beam, it makes the thing go around. Now, the baby, what's interesting is they first think, well, this is a reinforcement, but actually what they find is the baby pretty soon gets pretty bored with it, and if you give it 6 of them, it doesn't care. And it's not so much about the baby thinks, is worrying about I can move my arms. It's not about the behavior. It's actually, what they find is that the baby will get bored with it, but go back periodically just to make sure they can still make it go around. Meaning that one of our most fundamental drives is a desire for mastery, growth and mastery. So we could say that's another level, our ability to master something.
Okay.
So then there's a next level, which we would say is now it's not about the environment, it's not about actions, it's not about knowledge or know-how or mastery. It's about values and beliefs. And here you might find somebody who says, well, I'm successful because I have lived according to my values, right? I've done something with integrity. And again, if you look often at some of people that we consider in the world to be successful, they're people who have maybe lived or died by their belief. What they believe in, what they value. So to actually live a sort of a life of integrity, of alignment with what's most important to me. And that doesn't have to be in any particular behavior or in even any particular know-how. So, which might, and maybe that value is something like I've lived a life of connection, or maybe it's I've lived a life of service.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now above that, we have the level of identity, which is not so much about where I've been, what I've done, what I know, or even my values and beliefs. It's about who I am, that I've lived my life, that and that I've become a certain kind of person, a person that is something that I have strived to be. So this is another thing, right? I've achieved a certain. It could be a role, or it could also be what we would call a sort of sense of mission. Mm. And then beyond that, you have a level of purpose, which is not so much about myself or the environment or behavior or capabilities or even my values. It's about serving something that is bigger than me. that I am part of something, that my success is that I have become part of something that is beyond myself.
Mm.
There's a lovely statement by the Nobel Prize-winning East Indian Rabindranath Tagore, who said, I slept and I dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and I saw that life was service. I served and behold, service was joy. Mm. So, and I think in some ways we can see that each of these is, as you go up the levels, they're sort of less tangible.
Yeah.
But somehow more, they're somehow deeper in a certain way. And of course, there are people who are then successful across the different levels, and I think we probably, the truly successful people, strive to touch each level.
Yeah.
Right. I have something that is a sign of my success, but I do things, I know things, I value things, I believe things, I am a certain way, and I am part of something bigger.
Yes. Yeah. It's interesting. You mentioned Bill Gates before, and of course, it's interesting seeing how he has changed. And now he has this vision of a world without polio.
You're right.
And that's changing the way in which he lives his
life.
So
here you get from this idea, that and you often will find this, people that do, in a sense, amass a certain amount of billions, it's kind of like, that becomes boring after a while. Yeah. And you don't need that much. Yeah. So what is it that actually brings you some deep sense of, pleasure, success? Is actually becomes more something like contribution.
Yeah.